It's no secret the NFL MVP award is dominated by the quarterback position. In fact, the last time someone other than a signal caller took home the award was running back Adrian Peterson in 2012. And even then, it took AP rushing for over 2,000 yards to earn the honor. But with the skill positions and defensive players consistently evolving and showing that they can take over and change the game the same way a stellar gunslinger can, 2024 could be the year we see the 19th ever non-QB MVP winner. So without further ado, I'm Tyler Raymond, and here are the top 10 MVP candidates outside of the quarterback position. Coming in at number 10 on the list is Ja'Marr Chase. And yes, I'm aware if he has a big year, it means Joe Burrow also went off, which would make the case for Burrow winning the award. But look at what Tyreek Hill did last season. He went absolutely nuclear, and Tua Tagovailoa didn't take away any buzz from his monster year. So if Cincinnati superstar wideout can build off of his 1,216-yard and 7-touchdown 2023 campaign, it is not so far-fetched to think that he could find his name in the MVP race. And while it is true that it is an uphill battle for Chase since he is a receiver and is reliant on someone else getting him the ball, we're talking about a guy who's only 3 years removed from an incredible rookie season that saw him put up 1,455 yards and 13 touchdowns. So he may be a dark horse candidate, but if he stays healthy and plays to his potential, don't be shocked to see Chase become the first receiver to bring home the award. Moving on to number 9 on the list, we've got San Francisco's Nick Bosa. The game-breaking edge rusher is entering his 6th season in the NFL and is the face of what is arguably the most terrifying defense in the league. This defense, combined with their juggernaut of an offense, makes San Fran a formidable team that will most likely possess one of the best records in the league. This alone will help propel the team's stars into the spotlight, which is huge for the MVP race. But how does this help Bosa's case? Well, Bosa has surpassed the 10-sack milestone in each of the last 3 seasons, highlighted by an 18.5-sack season en route to a Defensive Player of the Year award in 2022. This landed him at 6th in the MVP race, so he is one of the league's premier defenders, and voters know it. Bosa would have to have yet another monster season to get his name on the MVP list, and it's not impossible by any means, as the Niners' defense is built around him, so he paves his own path in a way. While it may be true defensive players never won the award, a standout season on the league's best team is all Bosa needs to change that. Perennial Defensive Player of the Year finalist TJ Watt lands at number 8. The all-pro outside linebacker and sack machine is quite possibly the most unstoppable force on this list. It's not very often you see a guy carry a defense the same way Watt does for the Steelers year in and year out. From laying bone-crushing hits on the opposing team's quarterback to lighting up running backs trying to cut outside, many try to stop Watt and almost always fail. Watt not only tied the all-time sack record in a single season 3 years ago, but added another 19 to his career total last year. He's a flat-out game wrecker, and his sheer power coming off the outside edge cannot be replicated. Like Bosa, the linebacker is stuck on the defensive side of the ball, which makes his chance at winning an MVP that much harder. But if the Steelers can turn heads and win some football games, Watt instantly becomes a name to watch out for. The number 7 spot belongs to the most versatile player on this list. Micah Parsons made his presence on the defensive side of the ball known almost instantly after entering the league in 2021. The hybrid linebacker can do anything you ask and more on the defensive side of the ball, from pass coverage to run support, all the way to sacking the QB. It's not very often a guy like this comes around, and the Cowboys know how to use him. Last year, Parsons set a career high with 14 sacks, and the 6'3", 245-pound linebacker didn't stop there, as he also tallied 33 QB hits. His versatility doesn't really come up in the stat sheet, as teams tend to pass and run away from him, but as previously mentioned, a Defensive Player of the Year has never won the award, so he has his work cut out for him. There also haven't been many defenders like Micah Parsons in the league, and everyone knows that, as Parsons came second in MVP voting behind TJ Watt in 2022, as well as 8th in MVP voting that same year. So if Dallas as well as Parsons can put together a big season, he can etch his name into the history books. A familiar face and some new threads. Saquon Barkley comes in at number 6 on the list. The Pro Bowl running back made some serious waves when he decided to ditch the New York Giants for the much greener pastures of rival Philadelphia this offseason. And while it is no secret Barkley is an extremely talented player who hasn't been in the best situation, this move to the Eagles not only brings a new beginning, but a chance to really prove he's one of, if not the best back in the league. Barkley rushed for 962 yards in 14 games last year, behind the Giants' relatively lackluster offensive line. And while these numbers are nothing to just breeze over, it's important to look at how much stronger the Eagles' front 5 are. To put it into perspective, Big Blue's line was ranked 30 out of 32 by Pro Football Focus. Philadelphia came in at number 1. So a running back of Saquon's talent behind the number 1 line in football is a recipe for an explosive season. It's not hard to think he'll finish at least top 5 in rushing, and with Jason Kelce gone, the tush-push might not be as effective, giving Barkley more opportunities to hit pay dirt. You can make the case to put Saquon even higher on this list, but it's still not proven how well the Eagles' playbook will complement his play style, so the number 6 spot will have to do. We knew Detroit was on the brink of something special after the 2022 season, but what we didn't know was that Amon St. Brown was as well. The wide receiver hauled in 119 receptions for 1,515 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2023, leading him to show up at number 5 on this list. Sure, Jared Goff had yet another good season for the Lions, but Amon-Ra put the league on notice, letting everyone know once and for all that he's a top 5 receiver in this league. But what makes Amon-Ra St. Brown's MVP chances so unique is the team's play style. Head coach Dan Campbell is aggressive with his play calling. He goes for it on fourth down, calls more deep passes, and doesn't settle for field goals. All of these factors allow Amon-Ra to see the ball more in the game's big moments, and he makes the most of it. Knowing his work ethic, one could bet with full confidence that St. Brown will take another step forward in his 4th season. And if that's the case, there will be MVP chatter. 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns is already a superb season, and the only way for the 24-year-old is up as this team continues to build its chemistry, so Amon-Ra most certainly belongs in the top 5. Now we start to get to the obvious names, as Cowboys standout star Ceedee Lamb is number 4. Number 88 put together a video game-like season a year ago, setting a team record with receptions with 135 for 1,749 yards to go with 12 touchdowns. The guy is a certified gamer, and he knows it. He's currently holding out, looking for a contract extension as his 5th season vastly approaches, but that's not what this video is about. Ceedee Lamb is very clearly one of the best players in the NFL, and his play shows that. And with the Cowboys receiver room getting weaker, Lamb is in a prime spot to get even more looks. It may sound crazy, but with Ceedee Lamb being leagues above his fellow pass catchers, Calvin Johnson's record of 1,964 yards could fall. Yes, 2,000 yards would be incredible, and it's a staggering number to think about. But if anyone can do it, it's Ceedee Lamb. He's an offensive juggernaut on a team that very obviously knows how to use him and his play style, so if the two sides can come to an agreement on a contract, expect to see Lamb atop the league's receivers. Justin Jefferson, J-Jets, the man who has had the best start to a receiving career ever, comes in at number 3. I don't know if there are enough positive things to say about this guy's ability to play the game of football. I mean, he came in, put up 1,400 yards as a rookie, followed it up with 1,600, and then 1,809. It's absurd. He already won an Offensive Player of the Year at 23 years old. Of course, his QB situation is finally changing this year, going from Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. But it shouldn't affect his production. Jefferson missed significant time last season with injury for the first time in his career, albeit still putting up 1,074 yards and 5 touchdowns, and has taken the necessary steps to avoid injury. In other words, he's coming back with a vengeance. And there will be talks about whether he can produce with each QB respectively, but at the end of the day, with all due respect to Tyreek Hill, he's the best true wide receiver in the NFL. With teams parting ways with Cousins, they'll need a leader, and Jets is going to fill that role. On top of all this, Jefferson was 5th in MVP voting 2 seasons ago, so the world knows what he can do and is ready to once again see him do the spectacular. He'd be even higher on this list if it wasn't for these final 2 guys doing the impossible. So sorry, Justin, you're at 3, but I'd love for you to prove me wrong. A guy that it felt insane putting anywhere other than first, Tyreek Hill. The Cheetah has turned heads the last 2 seasons, finishing top 10 in MVP voting both times. In 2022, he caught 119 passes for 1,710 yards and 7 touchdowns. Insane, yes, I know. But he then followed it up with 119 receptions for 1,799 yards and a mind-blowing 13 touchdowns, all while playing 1 less game. So if Lamb or Jefferson seemed unstoppable, Tyreek Hill is otherworldly. Everybody wondered how he'd do without Mahomes when he left the Chiefs in 2022. But it's now as if everyone's wondering if he'll steal an MVP from the Kansas City quarterback. His pure speed leaves defenses in the dust and allows him to turn 5-yard shovel passes into 85-yard house calls. If anyone's going to break Johnson's record, it's Reek. Miami's system fits him perfectly because he's the focal point. The supporting cast is good enough to create even more room for him, but it's Hill that takes them to the next level. And if it wasn't for the final name I'm about to mention, Tyreek would be the clear-cut number 1 non-QB player to bring home an MVP. So I guess he'll just have to settle for being the receiver with the best chance to be the first one to ever win MVP. Last and most certainly not least, we have 49ers All-Pro running back Christian McCaffrey. Did you really expect anyone else? I mean, come on. The guy came in 3rd in the MVP voting last year, the highest of any player on this list, and for good reason. In his first full season in the Bay, Run CMC rushed for 1,459 yards and 14 touchdowns, as well as catching 67 passes for 564 yards and 7 touchdowns, for a whopping total of 2,023 yards and 21 touchdowns. Stats so good you'd assume he wasn't human. As stated when discussing his teammate Nick Bosa, the Niners are one of the best teams in the NFL, and it is in no small part to C-Mac's contribution. He's one of the team's best offensive players, probably the best one. His all-around talent is unmatched, and in Shanahan's system, we've seen CMC unleashed at full potential. He's poised to break some sort of record this season, whether it be rushing touchdowns, total touchdowns, or even rushing yards. So he'll be a name to look out for all season, and honestly, he's up there with the other MVP favorites, quarterback or not. McCaffrey really is something special and has the ability to do something special. Each of these players are talented enough to do it, but can one of them really take down the QB bias that has had the league's MVP award in a chokehold for the past 11 years? That will have to be seen. But until then, I'm Tyler Raymond, signing off.